Hey, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
Just setting up the Facebook Live. And then I'm actually going to go off video today and just do audio. I'm not having a great morning. So I'm just going to use my voice today. That works for everyone.
But Lindsay, you got this and you're doing an amazing thing, even while you don't feel good.
Thank you.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is. It really, I think that to me, that was probably one of the hardest things I ever went through in my life. So just hang in there. You can do this.
I keep trying to tell myself hardest thing, but greatest thing I'll ever do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have to do a lot of daily gratitude journaling to make sure I find the joy. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Like I said, I'm just going to pop off video because this is not my best look today. And just in case I need to make a weird face or take a second or a breath. Okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to share a few different tabs today. Okay, before
I just want to inspire me that you're here. I just was saying, what a great example. You're personally inspiring me because you're pushing through and you're here, and that's huge.
Well, thank you. Do you know what? Sometimes I've found that pushing myself, I get this boost of energy and adrenaline, and it's what I need. And so I'm like, I'm going to show up as I need to today, which means I look like this. But yeah, I know that it's serving me in much bigger ways. So thank you for that. Okay, so before we get into the pre-launch content and digging deeper into that today, I want to hear from you guys just quickly in the chat who did their homework from last week. So the homework was two things, was to grab the Launch book by Jeff Walker. I know there's a newer one out, so I think that a lot of people got the newer one, which is awesome. And then also to post or start talking to your audience about that pre-launch content. I want to hear from you guys in the chat there about that. Just want to see where you guys are at with that, because you know what, we're going to focus on digging deeper today, but we talked last week. We want to make sure that we are actually doing the things. We are doing the work. We are putting ourselves out there. We are trying, right? So that we are actually moving things forward. And there's a quote actually that I have in one of these slides from Jeff Walker, which we'll cover today about, I have the older one, Martha. It's honestly it's just as amazing. So don't worry if you bought the older one. Okay. So I want to see more people saying that they did the homework, especially I want to see this next week. Okay, so just a little recap. We talked about last week to turn your marketing into an event. So everything, especially when it comes to a launch. Now, this doesn't mean to say a random post on a Tuesday you have to make a big deal about before you post an inspirational quote, or you share a photo of you at an event, etc. But when we're looking at launching new products, or we feel like our business has gone a little bit stale, or we're just not getting the traction with our audience that we want, we have to make a big deal out of things. I remember I started a second business in 2019, and I knew that if I didn't make a big deal about it, nobody else would either. And so I had a huge launch event. I got people, I think I've mentioned this before, I got people to donate prizes. I got balloons. I made a little photo booth at my event. I even bought concert tickets. They were on the grass and they were, pretty cheap tickets. but I bought concert tickets to give away to people who showed up because I knew that I had to take myself seriously in order for other people to take me seriously and to take my business and my product seriously. And so we have to look at it in this way, and it is a lot of work. Right. I think I said this probably one of my very first trainings is that social media, I think because how instantaneous that it is, that we can get instant gratification, how much people are on it. It's just a way of life. We think it's going to be the easier route, and it's not. Marketing does require work. Building a following and building a community online requires work, and really being able to launch a product and get the sales that you want from it requires work. Right? I think Eric Worre always says it's called network marketing for a reason, because we do have to put in the work. And so I just wanted to emphasize that again in terms of social media is not the easy way out. And I think that's how a lot of people do look at it. They think, oh, I can just, put up this post and that was so easy. I'm going to take the graphic my company gave me and just put it up there, and that's super easy. And now my business is just going to build. No, you build the business. Social media is a tool you use, and you have to know how to use it correctly. So again, before we get more into the pre-launch, I wanted to talk about the difference between customers and followers. We've talked about this before, so this should be a refresher. And I meant leads versus followers, not customers. I'm sorry about that, but almost the same difference. There is a difference here. Someone who follows you, somebody who, maybe follows your Instagram or is a friend with you on Facebook or saw your TikTok or whatever it is not necessarily a lead or a customer, meaning somebody who wants to do business with you. Sometimes these people just stumbled across your page. Maybe they're, friends from different areas of your life. It doesn't mean that this is your circle of influence when it comes to your business. And why that's important is because when we look at the pre-launch content that we're going to go through today, we are trying to develop leads, people who are actually interested in doing business with us. And even prior to this pre-launch content, it's why it's important to be consistent on social media and show up and provide value. This way, you're constantly developing leads. That is one thing as a business owner you always need to be doing. How can I develop new leads today? And this is by talking about the value that you bring and bringing your expertise to the table, and not just talking about your products all the time and alienating people, because that doesn't create a lead. That just creates people who run the other way. And then in the same token, we can't ignore talking about our products and our business either, because otherwise we're just creating personal relationships and not necessarily business related ones. So this is all going to come into play as we continue to move throughout this. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about too is that if you feel like you don't have a following, how many people feel like, and put this in the chat, they don't have a following, they don't have people that really engage with them? It's like, that's great if I had a bunch of engaged people ready to buy this offer, but I feel like I have nobody. I'm starting from scratch. Just throw that in the chat. So one of the things, actually, Jeff Walker calls this a seed launch. And this is something where you are starting from a place of, I have nobody in the room. It's not like I'm walking into the room, there's people going, great, I'm excited to learn more about this. It's, no, I have nobody even here. I don't even know who to invite. This comes into play, like I said on the previous one, of constantly developing leads. And what do we do for that? So we use that by some of the things that I've already taught over the last few months. We show up consistently on Facebook. We run a private group. We connect with other business owners and we do Facebook Lives with them. We partner with them on different initiatives. I get out into my community. I go to networking events. I donate products to different fundraisers. I position myself as a real business owner. Right? That's how we create all those things. So those are really important to be doing constantly. But for those of you that are like, okay, great, Lindsay, I can start doing those things, but how do I launch this right now? Is that if you don't have the engaged audience, write this down. I need the most compelling offer. If I don't have an engaged audience, I need the most compelling offer. So I used this strategy a number of years ago, like I mentioned, and I've used it many and many a times over and over again. And this was in December. And I remember I was sitting at home. I was actually reading this book for the first time. And I was like, December and January are typically my slower months for my business, especially December, even in November, really, because to get a company in direct sales to talk to you in November and December, when they're their busiest with their consultants, is usually, very, very small. People are busy working their business. They're not taking the time to really invest in additional things. So I knew that I needed to recover from the holiday season as a trainer and course creator and speaker and whatnot. And I needed to make sure that January was really a bang for me. Now, at this point, I was getting speaking gigs because of referrals, and not necessarily because I had a following. I was working with smaller companies at the time, and I did not have the audience that I do now. So just keeping that in mind. So I knew, because I didn't have a massive audience waiting for an offer from me or waiting for me to just provide them something because they trusted me, I knew I had to make a really compelling offer. So I created it was a free Facebook group, and I called it Jumpstart Your January. And I talked to network marketers and direct sellers and said, hey, listen, January is your slowest month of the year. But what if it wasn't? What if I could show you how to utilize social media at a time where people are less likely to see you face to face because they're exhausted from all of the social time they've had over the holidays, and you can still build your business? I've created this free group. It starts January 1. In 7 days, I had 3,200 people join that group. And I didn't have that many engaged followers. So I remember sitting at home crying about this. I couldn't even believe it. But I made the offer so valuable and so exciting that people invited their friends. That was the key. I made it so compelling to people that they had to go share it with other people. That is what we always want our offers to do. And we have to think exactly, what are the problems that my customers are going through? And not only what are their problems, what are the common problems in their friend circles? What are the common problems in their family? How can I encourage people to invite people here? And so, when we talk about the power of direct sales, it's really, write this down: each one, reach one. Right? You can very quickly grow influence and grow a network if you have the culture of each one, reach one. You could have 5 people that suddenly turn into 10, that turn into 20, right? That turn into 40, etc. Because people are always just at least inviting one other person. And that is your job, to not only create that sort of culture by saying things like, who else in your life would benefit from this? This is why I love challenges and accountability and focusing on that. Who could you do this with? Asking those sort of questions, but making sure that your offer is compelling enough, or your marketing or your event, whatever it is you're doing, is compelling enough that it makes other people say, I have to do this with my friends, with my family, and I'm going to invite them to this. This is how this group for me grew so quickly. And this right here is what launched my business. Because suddenly, I remember I did this group. I had a leader from Avon in there. And I booked an Avon conference. And as soon as I booked Avon, every top company, Beachbody, Monet, Senegence, Norwex, all of the top, big companies, Pampered Chef that we all know about, wanted to work with me, because suddenly I had bigger names on my roster. And so this was just because I put something out there that somebody saw and they invited more friends to, and that trickled down. So I just share this little anecdote with you to show you that it is possible, but you have to have a few things. You have to have the offer, and you have to have the confidence. I decided it was, the way that I ran my business, especially at the beginning, was success or die. There was no other option other than for me to succeed. And I knew that success would come from that likability, from that know, like, and trust factor. And people trust confident people, people that put themselves out there, people that are willing to show up and to be uncomfortable. I shared this quote before. Brene Brown says, I don't care about your feedback unless you're in the arena getting your butt kicked with me. Right? That was the type of business that I wanted to build. And that was the type of mindset that I had to have to be successful. And you have to have this as well. I pulled this quote from the book. Jeff Walker says, as you go through this book, it'll become obvious that there's a significant amount of work and planning that goes into these launches. I know. I wish it weren't so. But if you want to make a fortune, there is always work involved. If you walk away from this with nothing else, it has to be this. You have to stop being so afraid to work hard at wanting this to happen. Like I said, I had the mindset of like success or die. Success still looked to me like balance. It still looked to me like family time. I'm not saying like hustle 24/7 and forget everything else important in your life, because success meant that for me too. But it was my only option, because I said, I'm not going back to corporate. I'm not going back to a 9-to-5 job. I want to make this work for myself. And yes, it is a lot of work. And that's why, time and time again, I see it doesn't matter what company I work with, the homework, even for example, every single week, the people who do it get less and less because people give up. They don't want to do the hard work. They say, I don't know how to do that. Google, use YouTube. I believe in all of you to figure this out. So we talked last week about the whole flow of what he calls a launch or a campaign or creating sequences. And last week we talked about the pre-launch content. And what this was just sprinkling that little seed of curiosity to your audience, letting them know that you're working on something exciting. But before you even think about launching it, you have a favor for them, and that's feedback. It's saying, hey, can you answer this question for me? Or, hey, I'm curious about what you think about this, or that. This information is invaluable and you cannot skip that step. So if you did not do the homework from last week yet, that is going to be a part of your homework for this week, because you can't skip the steps in any sort of launch sequence. You have to start engaging and make this process collaborative. The more collaborative it is, people are more willing to support you because they feel like not only are they a part of it with you, but you delivered them exactly what they are asking for. This is also where objections will come up. And objections are extremely important because you're going to have to answer them throughout the rest of your content so that you don't run into these during the checkout process. So you've already answered the, frequently asked questions or most common objections. How many of you are familiar with Grant Cardone? Do we know who Grant Cardone is? Sales trainer, one of the top. For his sales staff that get on the phone every single day, one of the things that they have to do is they have to practice objections with the person sitting beside them. Actually, I think I've shared this before too, but the process they have to do before they get on their first call is quite extensive. They need to do jumping jacks to get their heart rate up and to get their adrenaline excited. They need to watch a short training video about something. It could be like 5-10 minutes just to get their head back in the game. Then they need to read a case study or a testimonial from somebody who's used the product or the program and had great success from it, to remind them of the power of what it is that they are doing and the possibility for transformation. And then they practice objections with the person sitting beside them so that when they make that first call, they're ready to go. This is what this whole process does as well. It prepares you. You need to get excited. You need to hype yourself up. Every time before I do a Facebook Live, I listen to music. I was listening to music, even though I feel like garbage today, while I was just washing my face and brushing my teeth to get on here. I was listening to music in the bathroom and dancing around because I know that I need that energy. And I know that you guys deserve that energy. You guys deserve the best of me, of what I can, what I can give. Frank says, he also says, be obsessed or be average, 100%. So let's look at some tips for creating some pre-launch content. So going back to this, so Joan asked, where do we post this pre-launch questions? On our personal Facebook page or our private group? I would post it everywhere that you are, because you want to get the most amount of information and you want to excite the most amount of people. So wherever it is, if you're on Facebook, on your personal page, if you have a group, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Instagram, just plop that same question everywhere and see the feedback that you get. So let's talk about some tips. So number one, when you're talking about your pre-launch content, you are going to be talking about the product or the business, whether that is a specific product or an ingredient in the product. You could even do this, a launch event for the business opportunity. You could create, this whole thing about joining your business, and you could use this for the exact same thing. But you want to talk about it without selling it. And that is a skill to definitely develop. You want to focus on the benefits and the value that learning about it is for them. So why is this valuable to you? For a tip, stick closest to the soil. So what I mean by that is, what Kristen says about talk about aloe, talk about the nutrients from the earth that we use in our products, talk about, why this is the best kept secret and why Manitex is superior to everybody else's, without saying, Manipul, right? Without saying, oh, I'm going to talk to you today about this product. No, today I'm going to talk to you about aloe. Why is this an ingredient I need to talk about? Or is this an ingredient I need to know about? Why is this so important? Right? There's a difference. You're talking about the benefits. And you can also here talk about the problems that people have, that that your product is going to solve for them. So during this time, it's not totally random, but you want to just be careful about going. You don't want to go on a Facebook Live and go, here's Mighty Bears. I want to talk to you about why Mighty Bears are so great. No, I want you to talk to me about why vitamins are essential for kids every day. I want you to talk to me about why aloe and why Costa Rican aloe from Manitex. I want you to talk to me about the specifics. I want to understand why is this even should be something on my radar. And like I said, talk about the problems people have. So I'm going to go through an example with you guys in just a minute where you'll be able to see that a little bit more in depth. Another tip is engage their curiosity right away. So this is teasing them that something is coming. Like even in the pre-launch, we did, hey, I'm creating something for all of you that I'm going to be launching really soon. But before I do, right? So we're not even talking about it. We're not telling them more about what it is. All we're saying to them is something exciting's coming, but it's important that I get your feedback. That's engaging the curiosity right away. And something exciting is coming. You have to remind yourself that, because you're turning this launch into an event, and it's not just a purchase. It's not just, hey, you can buy Mighty Bears right now. No, what is the entire offer? And next week, we're going to be talking about developing that offer. So what are the additional things that we can add to it to make it exciting? What are the additional things that we can add to it that create scarcity and some of that time limitedness to it? Because like I said, there's many times when I tried this and I didn't add a bonus to it, and people would say, that's amazing, but can I get this at any time? And I would, say, well, yeah, but in my mind, I wanted to say, but I want you to buy it right now, right? But how do I get them to buy it right now? By throwing something extra in. So engage their curiosity. And that's throughout your pre-launch content too. You always have to be talking about the next thing that's coming down the pipeline, and you'll see an example. Make it collaborative. We've already talked about this. Ask questions each step of the way. You are not a talking head, right? You are not an infomercial. You want to create a collaborative space. If you're going to do a Facebook Live as one of your pre-launch content, ask questions and write those questions down on sticky notes and put them on your computer. That's what I do. I always put little sticky note reminders on my computer when I'm about to do a Facebook Live. That way I have that visual right in front of me. You can even write it down on a notebook. People don't care if you look down a few different times to see where you're at or to ask different questions. You can even say, I have a list of questions here right beside me I wanted to ask you guys throughout this presentation. Just be honest. If you're not comfortable just, going with the flow and like being able to pull that out of nowhere, then write those things down. I absolutely still do. Another tip, you can't launch something without knowing their objections and addressing them. Again, we're going to go through this as an example. You'll see what I mean, but it's important that throughout the process, you ask what their objections are. You listen when they state them, and you address them in the next piece of content, because we want to make sure that we are always educating. And there's a lot of objections that you can actually, I'm sure, think of on your own that you can address right from the beginning. And we're going to talk about some as well. And I want to hear from you. what you would think some objections could be. Another tip is your main job is to keep people's attention, right? Is to get people engaged and excited in what you're doing. You only have seconds, unfortunately, to convince them to stay engaged with you. Most people watch a Facebook Live. This is the average watch time, 10 seconds. Now, does that mean that your video should be like 1 or 2 minutes long? Absolutely not. There's nothing that you could really say in 1 to 2 minutes that's exciting and really informs people. But you have to know when those first 10 seconds of your video are some of the most important. There is a teacher actually here in where I live that's gone viral on TikTok and Instagram, because during virtual schooling and lockdown, he knew that in order to get his kids to show up to virtual school every day, because he saw, he was showing up as a teacher and he was having kids miss all the time, or they weren't engaged, they weren't paying attention. He knew, I need to get them excited to come back, and I need to get them engaged in the first few seconds of the class. And so every single day he did something different at the beginning of the class. Sometimes he would dress up as a dinosaur and like run around, his living room. There were times where he had like a smoke machine and he played, the song from Space Jam, and he like came up into the video like he was on a platform that was rising. He did a lot of really fun stuff. He did skits. He just invested in all these like really cool, funny things. And suddenly he had 100% attendance during virtual school every single day, because the kids wanted to see how he was going to start the video the next day. And by engaging them in the first few seconds, he had their attention throughout the rest of the class, because they decided that they liked him. Now, I'm not saying you need to go get a smoke machine or go get a dinosaur costume or do anything, but even, who was it? I think it was it Karen that had the cape on in her video? I think we saw that on a merge. I believe it may have been Karen. Even just something like that, if someone sees that, you could start your live and then run into the screen and sit down and have this cape on. And it's silly, but it's going to catch people's attention when they're scrolling through their newsfeed. And remember, most people who watch your Facebook Lives are replay viewers. So don't just sit there and wait for people to come on. Talk right away. How can you start it with a bang? Maybe it's something silly like that, or entertaining in that way. Or maybe it's a really powerful question. Maybe it's one of those types of questions that makes people stop and think, whoa, I can't believe they just asked me this, or I've never thought about that. It needs to engage them right off the bat. This is why you can't just wing it on your Facebook Lives. You can wing most of it, but the beginning, you have to know what it is that you're doing. And yes, this is a lot of work. This is brainstorming. This is going to require practice and trying things and seeing if they work. But like we said, there's no fortune without work. Okay. You also want to do something different than your competitors are doing. So always be, looking at what others are doing. Maybe there's a health coach that you follow and you want to see, what are they doing to engage their audience? Or maybe you're like, I want to talk about this, but I see this everywhere, right? Think about a different angle to do it from. Don't worry too much about this, but it is something to just keep in mind. You have to stand out, especially on such a crowded space like social media. And people aren't walking around and wanting to be sold, but they are walking around with problems. This is what you need to focus on. How many of you feel like, read that sentence again. People aren't walking around wanting to be sold, but they are walking around with problems. Think about the last few social media posts you've done about your business. Were you speaking to their problems, or were you trying to sell them a product? Did you share a photo of a bottle of the product and give some information about it? Or were you saying, hey, I'm calling all moms of picky eaters, and talking about that? Ask yourself, which one am I mostly doing? And if you're doing the more of the product focused posts, you have to remind yourself, nobody is walking around with their credit card out going, I'm like really interested in just buying things today. No, we're walking around with our problems. And when we're when we see our solutions, when we're faced with them, that's when we're compelled to buy. And you need to do all of these steps. I know it's a lot of work because your followers will tell you what a great offer looks like. They're going to tell you exactly what they want from you. You could sit alone all day long or talking with your team about what is the best offer we could create to get our audience excited about Manatech. And you may have a lot of great ideas, but I promise you, the people that are not yet your customers have better ideas than you do because they're not buying. There's something that's missing. So ask them, engage with them. And this process is really going to help you do that. So this pre-launch sequence that we covered a little bit last week, this allows you to sell to your customers exactly what they want, exactly what they're looking for, because you're gaining that information along the way. So just a little recap of the pre-launch. This is where you're going to start building that anticipation among your most loyal fans and customers. So this part of the sequence is also used to judge how receptive, this is a slide from last week, the market will be to your offer and to figure out what some primary objections might be. This way you can address them in your marketing. For example, if you want to launch Mighty Bears, you may say, do your children or grandchildren take multivitamins daily? Why or why not? And see the answers that you get, right? I'm working on something really exciting for my business, but before I launch it, I wanted to ask you all a favor. If you could go ahead and answer this question. Do your kids or grandkids take daily multivitamins? Question mark. Why or why not? You're going to gain information about why they do, which is exciting information you can use, but also you're going to hear why they don't. And those are some of those objections. And you can make sure you speak directly to those in your next sequence. This is why this question is invaluable. And maybe you did the pre-launch question this week and you didn't get any bites. I want you to reframe it. I want you to ask a new question and I want you to try again. These are steps and you can't skip them. So until you get some responses from your first question, I don't want you to move into the pre-launch. I want you to keep asking different questions. So now we're into the pre-launch portion of the training. So as mentioned last week, this is the heart and soul. This is where you're going to gradually warm the audience up with approximately 3 different pieces of high content value. So the sequence for this can be anything that you want and the timing of it. So what I mean by that is you may go, do you know what? Today is Saturday. I already got my questions for, and some of my feedback from my pre-launch question that I put out last week. I feel like I have enough to go off of. I'm going to do my first piece of content on Monday. I'm going to do the next one on Tuesday. I'm going to do the third one on Thursday. On Wednesday. There we go. I know the days of the week. And then on Thursday, I am going to share my offer with them. You may go, I definitely need a few days in between because I'm a bit slower when it comes to, maybe figuring out exactly what I want to say on my next piece of content. So I'm going to do the first one on Monday and I'm going to do the second one on Thursday. And then the following week, I'll do Monday. And then I'll launch next Thursday. It's up to you how this timing goes. You could do it once a week and launch in 4 weeks, right? It's totally up to you, but you have to make sure that you give yourself enough space in order to take the feedback from each piece of content and incorporate it into your next one, while also pushing yourself forward and not giving yourself too much space because you're afraid. So it's that timing is 100% up to you guys. I can't tell you exactly what that looks like. It just depends on how you want to do it. Okay, so first things first is I want you guys to do some research when you're thinking about launching your first piece of content. So you did your pre-launch question, you got some feedback. Maybe it was the question, do your kids or grandkids take multivitamins daily? Why or why not? Okay, so I have some answers as to why people do, and I have some reasons why they don't. And I'm going to make sure that I speak to I understand why you don't, but here's the response to that objection. Doing some research too will also help with objections. For example, I Googled, do kids need daily multivitamins? A lot of the first articles said no. Most kids get their nutrients from food. Okay, great. So there's a sentence. Kids don't need multivitamins daily because they get most of their nutrients from food. How could we overcome this objection? Write some ideas in the chat. What are some things that you would say to somebody or could say to somebody that says, oh no, I don't give my kids multivitamins because I read an article that said most kids get their nutrients from food. I know Susan probably has so much on this. I've heard her speak a little bit to this when she talked about eating closer to home. What are some things? Type them in the chat. Find an FDA article that says everyone needs to supplement. Yeah. What else? Why do people need to supplement? How could we say, yeah, in a perfect world, most kids would get their nutrients from food? But do kids eat a large variety of foods and the foods plant foods? The world is more stressful. Are they eating fast food? We have to look at the quality of food. Yep. Right? Even, fruits and vegetables from your grocery store may also lack nutrients because of how far away they came from or how many additional preservatives they have in them. It's there to fill the gaps. Right? I love that, looking at the food guide. Most kids get their nutrients from food. Well, ask yourself, did my kid eat 12 servings of vegetables today? How many people experience picky eaters with their kids? So yes, in a perfect world, most kids would get their nutrients from food. So right now, we are already looking at some content that we could talk about. We could talk about the quality of food, why your kids should supplement because of this quality of food in America today. We could talk about, we could bring up an article from the FDA about supplementation. We could bring up the food guide and we could walk parents through the food guide. We could talk about, a variety of different things that you've mentioned. We could talk about picky eaters. Right now I'm looking at even myself with hyperemesis. My diet mainly consists of ices and crackers and cheese right now, because that's all I can really seem to stomach. But I have to make sure that I'm taking prenatals, that I am taking my vitamins. I'm still taking my Manatech products because I know that I have to supplement right now because I'm not getting everything I need from an icy or from crackers and cheese. Because right now I'm being a picky eater. So am I fueling my body and my child with everything they need for development and growth? No, it's why I have to supplement. Right? And so we talk about that. Right now, you have all these ideas right off the bat. Your job is to understand their objections and not railroad people. And I say that because I see this so much online right now. Our current climate, we're so divided on so many different topics in our world right now. And I don't see people educating or providing value. I see more people railroading, saying, no, you're wrong. Or, nope, that's not actually true. We get what? Defensive. So it's important to understand these objections and speak to them in a way that makes sense and creates trust. You want people to go, oh, I actually never thought about it that way. So even though prior to this conversation, you asking this question, I thought, no, my kids don't need vitamins because most kids get their nutrients from food. But now that you've said some of these other things, yeah, I can see where that opinion maybe isn't wrong, but it's not the whole story. It's not the whole picture. And so when we do that, we have to share, you get, what's the thing? You get more, what's that saying? You get more like flies with honey or bees with honey or whatever it is, right? We have to make sure that the way that we're communicating these things and dealing with these objections creates trust. Yes, Tony said, encourage people without offending. It's not saying here's why you're wrong. And then listing, a huge paragraph. It's saying, thank you so much for sharing that perspective with me. I used to think that this was true too. And I think in a perfect world, you're absolutely right, Anne, that most kids should be able to get their nutrients from food. But the more I learned about our farming practices in America, the more that I learned about the food industry and, even just really looked at what me and my family were eating in a day, looking at the American Food Guide or the Canadian Food Guide, I realized that we were really actually missing the mark when it came to fueling our bodies with nutrient dense foods. And so supplementation was an answer for us. So you're agreeing, but you're adding on, right? And so not only is this going to be helpful in the comment section. Yeah, I love that. Martha said, here's what I found. Oh, I love that. They may say, oh, I read a Mayo article that said this. Oh, I read that same article. Yeah, I love that you read that one. I got really curious about X, Y, and Z though. And I found this other article that spoke to this a little bit more specifically and why this is true in a perfect world, but here's what's really happening, right? They're looking at you going, wow, I'm so thankful that Joan or Martha or Tony or David, whomever, provided me with this extra information. Not, oh my God, I just answered her question and now they're fighting with me in the comments on Facebook and telling me that I'm wrong. The customer's never wrong. We say, thank you, appreciate you for your answer. I understand, your thinking behind this. What about this? Even asking a question, have you ever thought about this? Can really stop people in their tracks and go, well, I've never really looked at it that way, right? And so we want to create that trust. So doing that, you're going to be able to take those objections, and there may be an objection that pops up. Maybe you're on a Facebook Live and someone asks you a question and you're like, I don't really know how to answer that. You can say, Anne, that is a perfect question. And I'm actually so glad that you brought that up, because I actually plan to answer that question this Thursday on my next Facebook Live, right? And so you can say, come back Thursday, because I'm actually going to be addressing this, because I had those same thoughts too, Anne. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You're creating anticipation for the next stage. And that next stage we know is going to continue to warm them up for the offer that happens at the end of it. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this pre-launch sequence. These are some slides from last week, but I show an example of each one. So the first one, we want to think about the opportunity. So this idea for transformation. So at the heart of every product with Manatech is an opportunity for transformation or change. How can we get people excited about that? That's what's really going to get people the most interested in what we're doing, because people want to change their lives. They want to change their health. They want to change their stress level. They want to change how tired they are. They want to change how their gut health and all these different things, right? And so how can we tell them that by showing up to what we're doing, they're going to have this possibility for change? So the general recipe for this is to show that opportunity, how their life might change. So getting them excited about what it is. So say for this first one, I can't remember, let me just look at my example quickly. So an example was, is your picky eater getting all the nutrients they need? Okay, so how you would show that opportunity is by saying to your audience, like, welcome everyone, I'm so excited that you're here today. Today we're going to be talking about, is your picky eater getting all the nutrients they need from their current diet? And I am really excited about today because it doesn't actually matter if your child's a picky eater or not. I'm going to take away the stress of trying to find the perfect thing or force feeding them broccoli or trying to think of all the ways you can hide vegetables in their dinner. I am actually going to talk to you today about why supplementation can be an amazing way to increase the nutrients that your child gets every single day in a way that's fun and exciting for them. So that's a possibility of change for the parent, right? So I don't have to keep having like this tantrum with my child every day. I don't have to go through the stress of them, crying and throwing their food across the table. And then me going to bed every night thinking that I've failed as their mom or dad or grandparent because they're just, I can't get them to eat what I think they should be eating. right? So that's a transformation for the parent, and then saying, we're going to get your kids what they need in a way that is easier for them. It's going to require less fighting, less creative cooking, and less stress for your entire family, right? That's something that you could say. You want to give your position. So why should they listen to you? So this is a great spot to, like I said last week, to showcase something like the latest, that article that was there. Now, what you can do in your post is actually link directly to it, right? You don't have to talk specifically about the article, but maybe in this Facebook Live where you have the title as, is your picky eater getting all the nutrients they need from their daily diet? Under there, you could put, plus, don't forget to check out this exciting article about, that just came out about my company this week, right? It's sharing your authority. A position could even just be by saying, hey everyone, my name is Susan Wechter and I am a health coach, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Continuing from there. It's just by saying your position of, oh, okay, this is somebody that I should listen to. Hi, my name is Joan and I own a health and nutrition-based company. And I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today about, are your picky eaters in your family, are the littles in your family missing out on their daily nutrients from their current diet? It's just by kind of saying who you are and establishing a bit of that authority. You want to make sure you're teaching something in it. So you're not just talking. This is where I see a lot happen. We just talk about the product. We talk about the features and we don't talk about the benefits. You actually want them to walk away with something they can implement right away, right? Or something that they can start thinking of, or something that if they've changed their opinion on, right? Teach them something. And because you did some of that research before, you may say, one of the first things you may say is, do you know what, guys, in preparation for this video, I actually researched, do kids need multivitamins? And there's a lot of the first articles that said kids don't, because they get enough nutrients from the foods that they eat. But I decided to go a step further. And then that's when you talk about the different things that are happening, like we already talked about, the food storage, the food quality, how much they're eating. Are they eating the recommended, fruits and vegetables a day, etc. So you're hitting them with that objection and you're saying, let me teach you something further about this. Same sort of thing I just mentioned, raise objections and answer them, or promise to in your next post. So you may even have an objection that you want to, maybe in that one you talk about aloe comes up and you talk about the power of aloe. And you say, in my next video, I'm going to teach you why all aloe is not created equal. Because they may go, oh great, I have an aloe plant in the sunroom out back. Joan said aloe's great. I'm just going to go pull off a piece of that and boom, we're good to go. Well, not all aloe is created equal. And I'm going to tell you why the aloe that, is in your pot out back, or the aloe at your local health food store is not quite everything that you need. Stick around. This Thursday, we're going to talk about that. Again, think about on shows. I talked about this last week. They always have that precursor to the next episode, right? Even a talk show will bring up a question and say, we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. We have guest blah, blah, blah coming in. So you want to think about, how is this all going to play out? Now, if you hate video, you can absolutely do this in a different format. I will just say that video is definitely the most engaging. Foreshadowing your next piece of content, we just talked about that. And then ask for a call to action. Do not get off that Facebook Live until you say, what are your opinions? We want to hear from you. Comment below. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know, what was the biggest thing you walked away with? What was your aha moment today? Or what is the biggest question you're leaving with? I want to answer that for you on our next video this Thursday. Don't forget to tune in Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time. I'll be here and I hope to see you here as well. Then you get off, right? Ask for that question. So an example, like I said, utilizing a Facebook Live, your title should be problem focused, right? Because people don't walk around wanting to buy things. They walk around with problems. So bring up their problem. Is your picky eater getting all the nutrients they need? I know as a soon to be parent, that is something that I would most definitely open. So the transformation possibility for them is to stop worrying so much about your picky eater. I don't have to worry so much that my kid throws their broccoli and carrots across the room every day because I know that they're at least taking their Mighty Bears, right? That's a transformation. I could stop worrying and stressing so much. And then making sure that you have that precursor. So just an example here is, P.S. don't forget to join me tomorrow. I'm going to talk about one of the best natural ingredients you and your family are most likely missing. So maybe you can say something along the lines of, even if, I know that I focus this on all of you parents with picky eaters, but even if you have kids with big appetites, join me this Thursday because I'm actually going to talk about one of the best natural ingredients you and your entire family are most likely missing. See you guys Thursday. That piques someone's interest to go, wow. And if you notice, I said you and your family, because now we're including the possibility of other products and other people. We're not just talking to parents. I'm not just thinking about my kid. I'm now thinking about, well, what are me and my husband missing? What are my parents missing? Right? This is a question now that's coming up. So Martha asked me a question and it just went to me, but I want to read it because I think that this is probably something that a lot of you have. So Martha asked, I haven't been on Facebook as much lately, so my algorithms are low. Should I post for a month before starting my pre-launch? You don't need to post for a month, even if you just post a lot for the next few days. So posting to your own page or go and comment on other people's things, just engage with some activity. But you could use your pre-launch as a part of that activity to get people going, especially if it's a question. So one of the things too that Facebook will do is that can be interesting, Martha, and anybody, is that if you haven't engaged in a long time, they will actually boost the first post that you make. And the reason being is they want to entice you to come back. How many of you have ever received an email before? Maybe it's somewhere you shop online or a restaurant or whatever that you haven't been to in a while. So they send you a coupon. Hey, we've missed you. We wanted to offer you 30% off your next purchase because they know, oh, we're losing, Tony right now. And she hasn't been here in a while. She hasn't made a purchase from our website in a while. So we need to re-engage her by making her excited. Facebook actually does the same thing. So if you haven't posted in a while, I would definitely start with your pre-launch question, Martha, and anybody else, because Facebook may actually reward you by boosting it, by going, yeah, we want her to come back. We want him to start posting more often. So let's boost this and get more engagement on it. So it increases her, lights up her limbic system in her brain and gets her more addicted to wanting to do this again. That's, the sad part of social media, but it's the truth. So don't be worried if you haven't posted in a while. It may actually work to your favor. Now I'm not trying to say that to tell all of you can take big, long breaks from social media, but don't be afraid if you've taken one, okay? Because you will get a little bump. Okay. So that first piece of content, we did a Facebook Live, is your picky eater getting all the nutrients they need? We tell them no, we say, here's why. We talk about, what if you could stop worrying about your picky eater all the time because you knew that they were getting the nutrients they needed through supplementation. You go into that and you say, one of the first things that I Googled was, do kids even need multivitamins? And I saw this answer that said most kids do get their nutrients from food. And so it may not be something that they necessarily need. Well, I did some digging because that sounded more like a perfect world answer. And I don't know about your family, but my family is definitely not living in a perfect world. We have busy schedules. A lot of the times we have processed foods. We eat out quite a bit. And we don't have a farmer's market local to us, or we don't have it in our budget always to just shop at the local farmer's market, making sure that we are getting the best quality food for, talk to those things. They're going, yeah, do you know what? That is like me. We used Uber Eats 4 times last week. My kids eat a lot of pizza. right? So even though my kids should maybe get them from food, it's not realistic. And no family is living in a perfect world. And so you say that to them, right? They're like, yeah, okay. Right. And then you say, don't forget to join me tomorrow or Thursday or whatever day. I'm actually going to be talking about, regardless if your child is a picky eater or not, I'm going to be talking about one of the best natural ingredients that you and your family are most likely missing, that you absolutely need through supplementation. Right? You're not going to like pull off a piece of aloe from your plant and put it on your kid's plate and be like, do you want mustard or ketchup with that? Right? Like that's not a thing. And so that piques their interest and gets them more curious. So on your next one, on say it's on Thursday, that's what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about aloe, because we're building that up, because that is like the secret ingredient that Mighty Bears has, is that property, right? And so we're going to be talking about this, that, yeah, you could go get any multivitamin from any store, but is it going to have the ingredients that Manatech has? No, because it's actually proprietary to Manatech, right? So we're positioning the product as top tier. So in this Facebook Live, this could be a Facebook Live. It could also be just a post, like I said, but I'm just going to continue to call them Facebook Lives, because that's truly what I believe is the most impactful, is thank them for watching the last one, recap any of the questions maybe that came up. Maybe there were a lot of the same questions in the comment section on your Facebook Live. You can say, I want to thank all of you for asking this question. What a great question. And I wanted to take a minute to answer that right here. We recap the opportunity, right? So we say, I'm really excited about today because it really continues on from where we left off on Monday, and really transforming the health and wellness of our entire family, especially during a time like this where immunity, stress, sleep, and overall health is some of our top priorities as people. You know, my name is Lindsay Tompkins, and I am the owner of a health and wellness company based out of blah, blah, blah. And today we're going to be talking about that secret ingredient that I mentioned last week that we may be missing. And that, my friends, is aloe. So you're going to talk about it. You're going to talk about, and it's not even just aloe, right? You talk about what's going on with Manatech. What are we actually using? You can present a case study here or more valuable teaching. Okay, you can talk about 2 more objections that maybe came up. So an objection to this one could be something like, I think I wrote it down here on this next page. Can't I just grow aloe at home? Or can't I just get it from the local health food store? Right? You have to make sure that throughout this, you're bringing things up as an objection. So instead of just going, here's why ours is better, start the conversation with, so I know you may be thinking, aloe sounds really exciting. And maybe you want to run out to your local, nursery or garden center and grab some aloe to start on this new journey. But here's what the information that you're missing. Why can't you just grow and use the aloe you have at home? Here's the difference. Right? And then you go into that there. So you're hitting that objection because you know that that's where their mind's going. Right? Someone who's really excited, they may just go pop in the car and go get an aloe plant then, or they may go over to the health food store and get something and find something with aloe in it, but you're stopping them. You're saying, hold up. I know what you're thinking, but let me give you some more information about that. That's going to be happening in your second video. And then again, you're pointing them to that third one. Don't forget to come back next Monday, because I'm going to be talking about this. Okay, you need to market each little piece of content that you do. And then your third piece, this is creating the ownership experience. So this is actually where we're going to be pivoting to the offer and putting them in the driver's seat. Because right now, you've been driving the bus, right? And they're all the passengers and they're coming along for the ride. Now is the time to start to put them in the driver's seat. How many of you, I'm sure all of us, have ever bought a home before and used a realtor? Have you ever gone to look at a house with a realtor? What do they say when they're walking through the home? Here's your bathroom. This is your kitchen. This could be your spare bedroom or maybe an office. We have your den down here. What are they doing? You're creating an ownership experience because they're more likely to envision themselves in that home and to see themselves, and they're considering, yeah, could this really be the place that we live? So they're using that language. So this is important to do, especially in this third piece of content, is starting to put them into the driver's seat and using those words like you, your daily routine, your nutrition, right? You're taking control over your daily nutrition. You can answer, again, any top questions that came up. Explain how. So you talked about, the first two are more about the why. Why is this important? Why is supplementation important? And out of all supplementation, the ingredient that's most missing is, right, derives from aloe, where we talk about that. And so that's in the second one. Now, how do people get change? How do people start really interacting with this? So that's when you're going to talk about, I have a really exciting offer that's launching tomorrow, and I wanted you to be the first to know about it. And you're going to talk about it. You say, I have an exciting, and it's whatever it is. You could say, I have an exciting group for parents and grandparents where I am going to create this accountability challenge where you and your family are going to be able to work together on drastically improving the nutrition in your home. There's going to be recipes. There's going to be, there's going to be different activities for kids. There's going to be products available for you for supplementation and so much more. You make it really exciting. So you're talking about in this piece what they can get from you. And you say, and it launches tomorrow at 9 a.m. or whatever time you want. You don't want to launch it right then and there because we are still getting people excited. We're still answering some questions. And that way, if more objections come in or more things, then the next day we make a really big, deal about this launch, right? And so we're going to talk about the launch more specifically next week, but that's what this piece is really going to look like. So saying something like, tomorrow I'm launching something really exciting, and it is aimed to help you overcome the problems you have with your picky eaters. Feel like there's 30 days of challenges, recipes, articles about supplementation, and so much more. Join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the launch. And with that, you launch Mighty Bears. We're going to talk about this next week, and maybe a group, or you launch Mighty Bears and a little ebook. Or it could be as simple as you launch Mighty Bears and a coloring sheet attached to it, right? But the answer is the product. But to create that urgency, we add on the bonus. And like I said, we're going to talk more about it next week. So I don't want to put you too far ahead because I want you mostly just thinking about these 3 pieces of content, especially the first 2, because this third one is going to essentially be a wrap up of all that you've talked about and talking about the offer that you will have. Okay, so the next few weeks, what we're going to be chatting about and what I want you guys to be doing for this week. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm going to quickly show you guys. I said that I was going to show you guys something else too. And Ben, I just got an email from Ben yesterday that the replay is up on the is it All About Manatech? That's where it normally is? No. Why am I forgetting the link? Where all the courses and stuff are. I'll post it again. But he just put that up there. So I am going to give him this first slides as a PDF to also include, and we will do the same thing with this. So just know that sometimes it does take a few days. How do I get out of here? There we go. Okay, so I wanted to show training.manatech. Thank you, Peggy. Just pregnancy brain. So there was 2 websites that I wanted to share with you guys. So the first is called Constant Content. So write that down, Constant Content. What this website is you are actually, it's mostly for like bloggers or people who do like paid newsletters or online magazines and things like that. And what they can actually do is they can put in a search word right here, and they can get articles that they can purchase to use. So these essentially, once you purchase them, it's like, oh, I could feature this on my blog, or I could put this in my magazine. Now, we're not going to be buying any of these articles. But what I like using this for is you can look up a word, for example, multivitamins, and you will see a bunch of different articles here. I like using this as inspiration and to spark ideas, and also for titles. So some of them don't always make aren't 100% sense to maybe what you're looking for. But like I mentioned before about using magazine headlines and just swapping out words, you can do the exact same things here. So you can type in any, even let's do even gut health and search. So there's over 7,500 articles about gut health here. Okay. And wait, hold on. Why is it? Oh, arts and culture. No, we don't want that. Let's just look at this. See, sometimes they don't really make sense, like weighted blankets. No, but you can go through here and find different things. It's weird that this is gut. Let's just look at nutrition. You guys understand what I'm saying? So you can look on here, 4 essential tips for creating a schedule for seniors. Well, you could just swap out the word seniors for kids, for example, right? So you can look at all these different things, different articles, and you can get ideas of things for your Facebook Live. Another website that's similar is called, let me just move this chat, titlegenerator.com. Now, this one I will say has really good headlines, but they just plop in your word. So for example, 5 ways multivitamin will help you get more business. Obviously that makes no sense at all, but you can still play around. They'll share a lot of different things. Again, it's just different ways that you can name your Facebook Live, because the title is really important. And so you can just get some ideas here. So I just wanted to show you those 2 websites if you have a hard time coming up with titles. Okay, and then, oh shoot, let's move that. So next week, we are going to be building out this launch sequence even more. We're gonna be talking about the actual launch. So your homework for next week, so what you're gonna be doing this upcoming week is, number 1, to do your homework if you didn't do last week's. Okay, put out that pre-launch question. And your next one is, I want you to come and I want you to tell me in the chat what your 3 pieces of content are going to be, especially those first 2. What do I want to share about? But be flexible and understand that I'm going to be flexible too. And what I mean by that is, you can come with the plan, but if your audience responds differently or takes you in a different direction, right, that plan might change. You have to be flexible. Be strict with your goal, but flexible with your methods. Strict with your goal, but flexible with your methods. But I want you guys to come to the table with, this is what I'm going to do. It may look exactly like mine, talking first about picky eaters. Are your picky eaters getting everything they need from their daily diet? And then the second one, I'm actually going to lead into talking more about aloe and the properties of ambrotose, so that I'm going to say, come to learn about the actual ingredient that you and your entire family are probably missing, regardless of what you eat in a day. So are we posting any of the 3 online yet? If you want to, you can start going for it 100%. I just want to make sure you guys at least have your ideas and you bring them. So if you've done them, then that's awesome. You guys have the information to start doing them right now. But I just didn't want to make the goal too big, because I know some of us didn't even post 1 question to our Facebook. So that is what I just really encourage you, is to tell yourself to get out of your own way this week. You're like, Lindsay, you have to stop being in your own way and you just have to do this homework. It's a question. Who cares if no one answers it? If no one answers it, what do? I ask a new question, maybe one that's more compelling. And if no one answers that one, well, doggone it, I'm going to post another one. right? Just keep doing it until it works. But it's only going to work if you try, right? There's nothing that is going to manifest from you sitting at home doing nothing. So post the question and start thinking about these. I know we went over today. I'm so sorry. But how do we feel about this? Do we understand? Is it a lot of work? Yeah. But we're ready for it. We can do the work. We're excited about the work. Right? Those are the things we have to say to ourselves. I can do this. And if I can't, if something's bumping up, ask a friend, YouTube. If you're like, I don't even know how to start a Facebook Live, don't make that your excuse and go, well, Lindsay, I couldn't do a Facebook Live this week, or I couldn't do any of this because I don't know how to do that. YouTube it. I told you guys there's a specific reason why I do not go very, very basic with my training. And it's 2 reasons. One, it changes constantly, like where the buttons are and this, that, and the other thing. And Facebook, Instagram, every social media platform gives you tutorials on how to do it. And YouTube is a free resource there for you. You guys don't need to pay me to tell you how to go live on Facebook, right? You guys want to pay me to actually start making some money, right? And so if you bump into something, Google it. Google is your best friend. Google ability, the #1 skill you need for success online. I still do it every day. Martha, I need to do jumping jacks hourly. I am with you there. I believe in all of you. I am excited to hear your ideas next week. So know that I want to hear them, and we're going to go over the launch next week, but we may do that over the next 2 weeks too, because I do want to be able to create some space for you guys to talk about your ideas and to get some feedback from me as well on them, right? And we can do some brainstorming, but you have to come with the ideas. Otherwise, I'm moving on, okay? Hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you for also the sun shining on me and creating a weird lighting on me, but that's okay. But thank you for the grace of letting me stay off camera. It was helpful for me in being able to just channel my energy into presenting. I know I was quick, but I just believe in you guys. I'm so excited for you. So I will see you guys next Saturday. The replay is up. I will post the last week's PDF with it. And then I will do the same for this one for you guys. Okay. See you guys next week.